guys all have it?
Sure.
Jonathan, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming to this evening's meeting. First on the agenda, we'll open up the second public hearing for the Marsh Road property. This is the second one. We did a last meeting. We had one also. Is there any additional public comment for that property? Seeing none.
Yes, that's fine. I'm Jim Miller, live in East Wakefield. I watched the last meeting, and I got a little interested in this project. And I'm certainly not here to try to stop anything from happening, but I was struck by some of the comments at that meeting. And so what I did was, I got a copy of the easement, and I hope this is an accurate copy, but I got a copy of the easement and I read it. And I'd just like to make some comments because I know that there were a lot of people speaking that were troubled about this land purchase, and specifically the easement. And so I kind of tried to dig into this and see how I felt about it. And I was struck by a number of things. The first of which that struck me after reading the entire document was kind of a misconception that I had, which was that the New Hampshire Fish and Game and the federal government were helping us buy this land. And I'm going to kind of throw something out here, and I'll back it up with a few facts. But by the time I got finished with the document, my opinion was that the town of Wakefield is actually helping New Hampshire Fish and Game and the federal government buy this land, not the other way around. And just to back it up with a few points, as I went through the easement, the first thing I realized was that I also had a misconception that I kept hearing that this was recreation, that there'd be recreational use. And there is some recreational use allowed here, but the whole focus for the New Hampshire Fish and Game and the Department of the Interior is like a wildlife preserve, to preserve native habitats. And I think that, at least myself, speaking for myself, and I think a lot of other people, I'm not sure that they really understand that, because this document is really designed to accomplish that. And when I saw that it talks about retaining the property forever, I was a little concerned, because it talks about things like riparian buffers, which I didn't know what it meant. But if I understand this correctly, there are so many things that we're not going to be allowed to do there that are considered recreational. For example, I read in here at one point that, first of all, you can't erect, the town can't erect any structure in there, according to this document. If the town cannot erect a dock, that was mentioned at the last meeting. The town can put a parking lot for 15 cars, but that's only if it's approved by the state and the feds. And if you go down point by point, I mean, one thing that really troubled me was that it talks about that you cannot disturb the soil within 50 feet of a stream or a wetland. And I think I had ideas of maybe being able to put a canoe in, or a small aluminum boat that wasn't motorized or something, to do some fishing. As I read this document, it doesn't really look like it's as much of a recreational area as I maybe mistakenly thought I understood. So the other thing that, it talks about, and it was mentioned that you can use snowmobiles in there, but it's kind of, then it says no motorized vehicles which I understand. If your emphasis is on preserving the wildlife habitat, I mean, the least disturbance is the best. And I think I need to understand, and I hope other people do, that is going to be the focus of the Fish and Game and the Department of Interior, is preserving that, keeping it as undisturbed as possible. Apparently you'll be able to hunt and fish. I don't know how you're going to get to the pond without disturbing the soil, but and you'll be able to watch birds and observe wildlife, and that's great. Apparently the town is going to be required to come up with a stewardship plan to be submitted to them, which I guess we'll be paying for, and they can reject it. So I don't know how you would have any recourse on if the town desires to do certain things. And apparently the stewardship plan has to be prepared. You have to have that for 10 years prior to any forestry activity. So I guess you can't cut any trees or anything for at least 10 years after you've submitted the plan and spent. And that sounds okay to me. I was troubled by the easement shall run with the property and shall be enforceable against all future owners and tenants in perpetuity. You keep seeing this last in perpetuity clauses in here. And then to sum up, the last point that I want to make was that the other thing I saw in here that I heard at the meeting last time was there seemed to be a lot of escape routes for the Fish and Game and the Department of Interior. It talks about if they don't kind of like what's going on down there, they can, and I realize it has to be substantiated, but if they don't like what's going on down there, they can require us to provide them with another piece of property. If for some reason the property is sold, they get a percentage, an equal percentage. In other words, if they're paying for 75% of it now, they get 75% of what it was sold for. I can understand that.
Totally fair.
But to sum up, as I said, I wasn't trying to stop anything, but I think it would be really nice if the selectmen would take a step back and look at this and say, how can we do something that might help more people be comfortable with making this move forward? And I think there's a lot of concern that I saw in the meeting, and also for myself, that about what's going to happen in the future. I mean, it looks like there's one way in and there's no way out of the town. And I'll sum up, Peter, for you, and then you can comment. I was wondering if it would be possible that there could be some type of a buyback agreement in here.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm going to let Keith speak to some of it, but what I would like to say, you own a piece of lakefront, right, Jim?
Yep.
You think you own a piece of lakefront.
Right.
For 250 feet back from the reference line, you don't own anything. The state can tell you exactly what you're doing there. So if we were going to say, let's not do this because we're afraid of those regulations on the riparian zones and the waterfront, then I'd advise everybody to stop buying the lakefront property because you really don't own it. It's an easement held by the state. They can dictate what you do with it. You know, within 50 feet of the reference line, you can't do anything without their permission. You've got very little rights. 150 feet back, your rights are still limited. They give you a little more latitude when you get back 250 feet. In any timber harvest or any outdoor operation, we have to be wary of any rivers, any water bodies. We're only allowed to harvest so much within those water bodies, within those areas. And I think if you said you listened to last week's meeting, I thought I made it kind of clear from my perspective that yes, this was a wildlife piece of land that we, I even mentioned that I didn't want to see motorboats on the meadows because it might be a reservoir someday down the line and it's wildlife. When we first talked about doing this easement, I didn't even really want to see snowmobiles going across there because in the wintertime, studies that I've read show that the deer's heartbeat gets elevated from the sound of the machinery going through the woods and wears on their fat tissue buildup and everything else and can cause them stress in the wintertime. We negotiated on that and we came up with, hey, all right, if they know where the trails are, they're more acclimated to it. There's been studies on both sides. As far as the easement goes, as I said, I would let Keith handle that about the buy-in out and everything else. I do recall and do know that, and I think it's only fair, that if we were to have to pull back on this easement, take the property back or buy the easement, that should be prorated on what we paid versus what they paid. And I think even at last week's meeting, I said, you know, when there was some folks arguing about whether or not we own the land, well, they are paying 3/4 of the cost of that piece of property. And if you think about it, from my understanding of this whole thing, $75,000, okay, half of the sale is supposed to go to this educational trust fund. So we're talking $35,000. So if you look at it realistically, somebody's giving us $5,000 to take this piece of property. Because the money's going back into an educational fund. The $30,000 that we're spending is going back into an educational fund to support our children. So I'm seeing how I can't see how it doesn't benefit this community. Plus, you are allowed hunting, you are allowed activities. There is a road down through there today, and I probably shouldn't tell you how fast I was able to move my truck down there to meet the group. But the road is in good shape. And it's, you know, I don't think there's any soil destruction along the way there if you considered walking down. Adding to the fact that we do have land on the other side of the meadows that can be accessed by boat, by canoe, and it's a shorter walk, because it's a mile walk down through that trail to get to the meadows. If you go to the meadows and go over Harmony Extension, it's only about 400 feet. So it's a lot closer. And some even entrance where that snowmobile gate entrance is. So there are access points for canoes, and even for rowboats. You know, if you have one of those dollies. But I think, and I've always thought, and I mentioned it, that we were looking for tracts of land that would benefit the wildlife, and the wildlife don't know boundaries. So you try and get bigger tracts in an area. So that it can only improve the hunting, the fishing, the water quality in that area, and the water quality downstream. So that's my thought behind it, Jim. My justification.
Okay, well, I'm certainly supportive of, and I'm appreciative of all the hard work that people have done to move this forward. But I do think there are a significant amount of people in town that are concerned about a one-way in and never being able to come out of this situation. I mean, what this document says is that anything the town wants to do down there has to be approved by this organization. Now, I think they could say no. I mean, they could literally stop people from going in there at some point if they. We don't know what the future is. Combined with the fact that they have, in their document, provided for the future. They provided escape routes for themselves. But there's no, everything is in perpetuity. I just don't, I'm uncomfortable with that portion of it, not the actual conservation of the product.
That's the part I'd like Keith to address, because, you know, the government is always going to provide an out for itself, and it really doesn't have to provide it, it'll take it anyway, you know that. But I'll let Keith talk to this.
I deal with a lot of easements, and I mean, what the government can do and can't do is spelled out in that document. But a couple of things you read, I think, you know, if you're not experienced reading them, and I'm not a lawyer, but I have read a lot of easements, things like disturbing the soil near the stream, that's not about just walking on the soil or taking your canoe there over the soil. That is not what that addresses. What that is about is digging holes or doing mining or quarrying or removing soil there. So it's not like you can't take your kayak and launch it with that, but get a kayak and try that sometime on this property. The other thing is that, you know, the easement is supposed to be about perpetual protection of this land. It's this generation saying, we are going to set this land aside, and it's going to be here for my grandkids. And that's the whole point of it. I'm on my town conservation commission in Wells, and my town, my conservation commission, use these easements very positively. Because as popular as land conservation is now, and as wonderful as our select board in the town of Wells, Maine is right now, we don't want the next select board to come in and be able to develop that land or sell it, declared excess property and sell it. What the easement does, it creates perpetual protected property here in Wakefield. And I'll absolutely defend, the stance. That's an important thing to do. I mean, if we don't set aside a Central Park, or if we don't set aside a Yellowstone Park, if we hadn't done those places wouldn't be there now. And that's what we're thinking here. And it might not seem like a right comparison because, we're still a low population density, not that people here, not that many people live here, but people are coming. I mean, there's an old rule that people move to an attractive place until it ceases to be attractive. And you can be guaranteed the population in this area will be growing again. And that places like this will get harder and harder to find to protect. So that's what the easement is about. It's perpetual conservation. Now some of that language on eminent domain, what that is about is trying to protect, because the source of funds, the federal part of the money and the state money coming into this are from dedicated sources. And when you buy a carton of ammo, a portion of that goes into this fund. And what you're trying to do is protect those taxes that those people pay, because that's for a dedicated purpose. And they bought this ammo, so the government with that language is saying, if someone comes along and condemns this land, we want to recover that investment and put it back into conservation, because that is conservation money. It was conservation money when it was put into the land, and if it's ever removed from the land through the destruction of the land, from who knows what could happen, then that money has to be recovered and put back into conservation. So that's what all that language is about. But I think you step back and look at this. The big picture is that the town is putting in $35,000 here. Elgit's putting in $50,000. The Fish and Game is putting in $85,000. The town's going to get to do most of what it wants to do with that land for a very, very good price. And again, I will say, and some people are saying, well, Fish and Game should buy it. Fish and Game wanted to buy it. And the landowner wanted to sell it, but the town said, wait a minute, we think that should be our property. And the wonderful Conservation Commission and others worked hard to bring it into town ownership, to get the Fish and Game to amend the easement. I mean, veered off their boilerplate quite a bit to allow for camping and some other uses that the town really wanted. And so this is where we are now. We've got the deals almost done. Any further delays are risky. A lot of people worked hard on this for well over a year, and it does a great thing for the citizens of the town and for future generations. And that's where we're at.
How can you go camping when you can't have a portable toilet and you can't pollute? It says
it's not a campground setup. It is
campground
conservation land, similar to Moose Mountain going up to Tumbledown Dick and all that. It's somewhat gated off, restricted use, and so it's not trashed also.
The other point to be made is it could be purchased tomorrow by someone and post it, and that's it. No more use.
And the comment on the $30,000 from the town, that's not from taxpayer money. It's not taxpayer generated. That's from current use taxes, penalties. Dave, you had your hand up first.
Kind of clarification, the stewardship plan is not our responsibility because we don't hold the conservation easement. Fish and Game does, they're developing the stewardship plan. In terms of cutting timber, that would be our responsibility. We'd have to develop a plan to responsibly cut that timber before we did it someday in the future. So those just 2 points. We aren't going to have to pay for a stewardship plan. That's all being taken care of.
I'd like to address your concern about, I'm Virginia Long, your concern about one way in and no way out. An easement goes with the land, and the landowner has always the right to sell it, as you noted. So the town has a way out. The town can sell the land if they found the restrictions too burdensome, for any other reason. Now, I would not prefer that outcome, but the town is the landowner, and they can sell the land if they don't like it.
John? Ralph?
Sorry, I won't have a pause, no problem. I sit on the Conservation Commission, and I flip and flop like the best of the politicians in the Shrunk. When this first came to the Conservation Commission, I rejected it because of the history that's already happened here in Wakefield. The sales pitch, it's got to be, you know, we should get it, it's great land, you can do this, you can do that. We had that opportunity up on Wichita Road, and we were told we could do everything but hunt. And the fact is, can't do anything out there. It's post the town paying a whole bunch of money for the conservation or development rights on that property. One of the salesmen on that stated, well, buyer beware. You should have known you owned land developmental rights. It's not the seller's problem that the town didn't know what they were buying. I flocked to the side of trying to help the town acquire this property because I could see the value. The dollar value was, you can't get a better deal. There's no way you can get a better deal. But I flipped back to the other side when I started as a Conservation Commission member, reading the easement and then learning that most of the language of the easement is verbatim from what the planners in our region, state, federal, worldwide planners, have in store for us in our futures. And everybody, I believe, has the best interest of future generations at heart. But when you sit and listen to everybody complaining about the state of our union, you know, the condition this country's in and all this stuff, you start to think about what can you do as an individual to make a difference. If the easement wasn't 99% verbatim of all the other planning documents that are being provided around our country and around the world, I would have less concern. But when it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And this is verbatim from the United Nations Agenda 21. It is. You can say, no, it isn't, but when you look at it and you read it and you use your brain, it's not a no-brainer. You have to think about what we're getting into. We've heard government make promises. We've seen, in my lifetime, I'm 51 years old, I've seen plenty of promises broken by the government, especially locally. I want to support it. I think if the town had an opportunity to buy it without the strings attached from the federal government, I would support it 100%. As it is today, I can only support it 50% because of those strings. I would rather see, as has been encouraged to the board to do, put an article on the warrant, put it to vote. If the seller needs to be compensated for a little more time waiting and stuff like that, you know, raise enough to compensate. But as a conservationist, I'd rather pay today what I'm trying to conserve than take away from my grandkids and their grandkids tomorrow what the federal government has to offer. Hopefully I'm getting my point across. I love my country, but I don't really trust the government.
Ken, you mind if I respond to that?
Let me just ask, you're 50% for it?
that gives me the flop side of the flip.
We're only paying 20% for it, so you 50% for the 20% or
Well, you know,
50%?
that's debatable. I mean,
If we were paying full
what is
price
the
with
real
all the
price?
restrictions.
I guess
To
one
the
of the
town?
things that irk me is, what is the hidden cost? You know, yeah, it's a good deal. $150,000 for 121 acres.
Or 30,000 for 121.
Well, the federal government got the money from, you know, your hard work. It's
Not particularly in this as far as where their money
your
comes
hard
from.
work, but,
Yeah.
and certainly not my hard work, but a lot of people in this country work hard to pay taxes, hidden taxes and obvious taxes.
Oh, yeah.
And it all gets diverted. Not a single bit of your FICA contribution goes to the United States Treasury or the Federal Reserve. It all goes to the IMF, the World Trade Organization, and it gets diverted. We just help Greece, you know. And I am trying to be aware of geeks bearing gifts. So
Another question? Jerry?
I was just curious, the camping thing comes up, and we realized from the last public hearing that you can't go camping out there. I mean, I think it was mentioned that people might be able to use it 3 times a year or 2 times a year. I read in the I read in the newspaper that it was maybe 3 times a year people would be able to go camping out there, but that was refuted at the last meeting by Dave. He said that they thought maybe the Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts would be able to use it a couple times a year, but he did also offer the fact that he has a campground in East Wakefield, and if people wanted a nice level campground with all the amenities, they could go up there and go camping up there, because this piece of property wasn't intended for camping. But the only reason that the camping comes up is in an effort to, as part of the sales pitch. It's part of the, well, this is good for the Boy Scouts because they can go camping out there. Well, they can't, so we realize that, and so that's not a sales pitch. But the other thing we have is that we get $75,000 toward tuition for Wakefield students, and of course, that $75,000 doesn't sound like a lot of money to begin with, but if you put that $75,000 in a trust fund, and we have 2 trustees of the trust fund right here, because Bruce Rich is one of the trustees and Dave is, and they might be able to tell us that if you put $75,000 into a trust fund, you're not going to spend that because that's the principal. You want to sit on that. The interest you get from that may be $2,000 or $3,000 a year. So, if you tell people that they're going to get $75,000 a year towards tuition, you would be more accurate to say you might get $2,000 or $3,000 for tuition. It might shed a different light on it. The other thing I was mentioning was, I was thinking while Keith was talking, I didn't realize he was from Wells, Maine, and not an attorney, but and with all due respect to him, being a conservation member, I don't know if the board has taken legal advice from a non-lawyer for nothing, but when you get free advice, it's worth what you paid for it. Now he can look at an easement that's going to be in effect for eternity and tell us what it means. And he can tell us that disturbing the soil doesn't mean walking around the water and scuffing your feet on the ground. That doesn't mean disturbing the soil. And he can sit here and guarantee us that 150 years from now, someone else isn't going to come along and say, well, you were walking along there and you were dragging your feet, and we consider that disturbing the soil. I don't think anybody can make that guarantee to us. So
guaranteeing anything on that. I'm sorry, Peter.
I just wanted
to answer Ralph's question.
Ralph, that land you were talking about in Wichita, I think I fought that one pretty hard myself because there were certain things in that easement that I disagreed with as far as timber harvesting. They didn't want to allow timber harvesting. But that was not that, huh?
I didn't hear you.
Well, then maybe you should look at the minutes, because I even got an email, and I don't know if I can find it for you, but that I sent saying how I was going to fight this totally because of the fact that they weren't going to allow timber harvesting. And proper forest management includes timber harvesting. Now, let me just finish. That was never sold to the public the way you're saying it was. It was sold as development rights. And when you buy development rights, that's all you're buying, is the ability for that landowner not to be able to build on that piece of property. We check the minutes. We did the other side of the lake there, and one of the reasons we're right now trying to search out Fish and Game and different ones is because it was talked about that several years ago when we did the other side of the meadows, the town graciously gave us several hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase easements, 500 I know. And it was also determined that that probably would not happen again in our lifetime. And that we'd have to find a different way to go about purchasing these easements, because the taxpayers probably would think that, hey, enough is enough on the $500,000 out of our taxes. We'd probably have to bond it or do something different. So what we had to do was learn creative ways to get the same thing accomplished without impacting the local tax base any more than possible. And one of the ways to do that is to get these agencies that have some funding, that have an interest in conserving the land, to join in as partners with it. And that's basically where this all came about.
Well, point number one, 150,000 is a little bit different than $500,000. We have $80,000 already in one fund of our Conservation Commission fund. And if we wanted to deplete it, we'd only have to raise $70,000. If we wanted to keep it in there, we'd have to raise $150,000. So there's a big difference. But I sat at the public hearing on the purchase up on Witch Trot Road, and I remember pretty well, without looking at the minutes, what was said and what was promised and what we ended up with.
I remember it as development rights being bought there, and it was a lot of money for just development
And
rights.
they didn't want to allow timber harvesting on that property, and I fought for that. Because it's proper forest management.
Anybody new?
Did I run out of time, or did I go off track? What happened to my,
You made a comment, yes, is how I took it.
that was the extent of my comment?
That was your comment.
So
Looking
what's
back.
the time limit on comments? I just want to make sure that the activists from Maine and other parts of the state and other parts of the country follow the same limits that residents do.
Yeah. Mr. Ron?
When I was going to comment today, the way I read this, that the town has to supply the stewardship plan. And
That's what it says.
For harvesting timber,
it says the grantors resource, the grant, conduct land activities properly, there's no plan. Well, as I read through it, I thought that, the town
the emails I have from Rich Cook say that the Fish and Game is going to develop the stewardship plan because it's their responsibility because they own the easement.
Well, here, the grantor's resource professional shall draft a plan. That is outlined in the section here, and so you might want to get that straightened out. One of my questions was who was going to pay for that, or where was the money coming for that? And the only other thing is I read this where it says condemnation and extinguishment. It talks about change in conditions take place which makes impossible or impractical any continued protection of the property for conservation purposes. Can you address that? That's kind of vague to me.
Well, this is, again, it's standard language I've seen in every easement. I'll give a good example of an easement in Maine again. Just so you know, I'm not an activist from Maine. I work for Moose Mountain Regional Greenways. We work here locally at this group here. And we're putting $2,000 into this project.
I know.
So-
I know you have an interest in it, and I know that you have a position here, and that's what makes you an activist or a lobbyist, in my opinion. So.
Well, I'm for this project.
I understand that, you're for it, the gentleman in the newspaper's for it, I understand that.
An easement can be extinguished if the purposes for which it's created go away. And the best example is there was some foundations near Route 9 that were protected by an easement. The sole purpose of that easement was to protect these granite rocks that were there as part of the foundation. Well, people came along and stole them. The whole purpose of the easement was to protect those rocks. They're gone. So why is the easement still in place? It would be hard to imagine something, I mean, I can imagine some apocalyptic thing where something happens to this land where it's conservation, it's no longer valuable for fish or wildlife or purposes that are listed in the beginning of the document. It'd be pretty hard to imagine all those things go away. So that's what
Who
it's about.
who manages the existing dam that's there?
I don't know.
The dam?
Yeah, stay.
The state owns that dam.
I think PSNH has the rights to the floodwaters. Any other new comments?
Well, just a comment, question, if the dam blows out and there's no pond anymore, then you could have a pretty...
The river will always be there. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm
In
Susan
your name,
Sharn.
please?
Yep,
Thanks.
Susan Sharn. I live in Wakefield. I'm not an activist, I'm a taxpayer.
All right.
And I can't see any problem with my tax dollars going to enhance the quality of my life
It's
in
not
this town.
your property tax dollars.
Federal taxes.
Yeah.
The
Clarify.
taxes are a wide entity. And I'm actually quite thrilled that some of the money I paid to the feds is going to come back.
I don't even think it's federal tax dollars either. That came from ammunition. So unless you're buying ammunition.
Taxes on ammunition.
Yeah.
I buy ammunition. I buy a lot of ammunition.
So the sportsmen are helping purchase that property.
There you go. And I think that one of the points that we really need to think about, and perhaps, I'm sure this has already been brought up, but in perpetuity, means that the water quality is going to be protected forever. Water quality in the future of our country is going to become more and more a critical issue, because without water there is no life. The state of New Hampshire has made water quality protection a high priority, and Wakefield has a lot of water. Virtually every undeveloped piece of land left in Wakefield involves water.
But isn't it already protected?
How so?
The state regulates it completely no matter what, for the
So-
first
so if you-
250 feet.
So if this purchase doesn't go through and this land becomes developed and turns into a 120 house subdivision down the road, you don't think that's gonna affect the water quality?
Well, let's be practical, it's not going to happen.
It might not happen in our lifetime, it certainly could happen in 2 generations.
Well, you'd have to fill in an awful lot of wetlands to do it.
Well, that has never happened before. The city of Boston's not built on wetlands.
I understand.
My point. That's what in perpetuity means. And I think that, given that the fact that the town of Wakefield has 7% of its land in conservation, means that 93% of the land that's appropriate is basically subject to for future development. I just think this is the deal of the century. It's a very small amount of town money. I think in perpetuity is a great thing.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Peter,
clarify?
hold on, please. How many acres are non-buildable out there?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't possibly tell you. It
20%?
maybe a third. I don't know exact. I don't have any exact numbers on it. I don't even dare say, but there's definitely some buildable land out there. But as anybody knows, as technology increases, I mean, I'm assuming that a lot of Portsmouth and Boston and those areas were non-buildable at one time as well. And now go down to New York City and try to find a tree outside of Central Park. You know, it's a long way away, but that's the perpetuity thing. Just trying to think for future generations. I drove by the Meadows the other day and I told my wife, I said, I'm proud to be a part of an organization that is actually, sometime in the future, somebody's going to look back and say, wow, thank God they did it. You know? And you drive by those meadows and you look across there and it's a beautiful sight. And I'm glad to be a part of that myself.
Mr. Matt?
I just want to clarify for everybody here. I came here tonight not to try to stop anything, and that's what I began with. I was here making comments and adding some suggestions, trying to urge the selectmen to maybe take some action that would create more community support, bring in the folks that do have concerns. And I'll sum up with that. The only last sentence I will say is that as far as I read that document, in my opinion, it doesn't come with strings attached. They're chains.
Peter, how many negative comments have you gotten outside of the meetings on this parcel from citizens?
0.
I've only gotten 1.5, maybe from Ralph.
I don't know one, so we're talking about people within this meeting, yeah, Ralph, Jerry,
I mean, Cogs will track you down on the sideline. So, anybody in cable land, make sure you contact one of the 3 selectmen and tell us if you're really not for this, because I'm not seeing it. I see 1 or 2 people come out at the meeting and talk, and that's it. I think Charlie may have had a few more phone calls to him or something, but I'm not getting the calls. Ralph?
This map right here,
Yep.
floodplain map.
Don't believe it.
Okay. I was just going to say, probably 90% of the largest parcel is in that floodplain.
What'd you say?
90% of the largest parcel that's being proposed to be purchased is in the floodplain.
It's a great reason not to develop it.
What's that?
Great reason not to develop it.
Well, yeah, I mean, in my opinion, you can't be, again, it's great, it's a great deal, it's a good piece of property to conserve, it really is. But it's naturally conserved, just in its inability to be built upon.
In this generation.
In this generation, sure. But,
Pam?
I had a lot to say last week, or last meeting, so I won't say as much this time, except I'd like to make 3 points. I'm not an activist unless that means being a Wakefield resident and thinking this is one of the best deals and the most beautiful pieces of land that we could acquire, and that we should do it to save it for the future. I think we're getting way too involved on what an easement means. If any of you, and you know I've been in real estate for nearly 39 years, an easement is something that always runs with the land unless the reason for having it, as the gentleman in front said, is extinguished. If you read through your deeds, many of you will find that public service or the co-op, utility companies have an easement over your property. That does not mean you do not own it. It just means somebody else has an interest or a right to use it. This easement, I believe, when you say it's boilerplate, much of the language needs to be there because it's a legal document. The third point I want to make is I spoke to several people. I went down and walked the land. Many people, the majority of the people on the Heritage Commission, because we're supporting this, walked the land. I wish if the people who feel they're not in favor of this, I wish each of them would go down and look at the property. I mentioned to several young people, including granddaughters, the daughter that I have in the 20s, about the beauty of this land. Go down and walk on it and see what you think. And they've done it, and they've come back with their friends and told me that they totally agree. This is young people, old people, middle-aged people, all thinking that have been there, that it's a beautiful piece of property and we deserve to save it for the future.
All right. Any more comments, questions?
Just one, Dave Tinkham. The issue of water quality is not the state's responsibility. It's every individual in this town's responsibility. And if you want to do just a little bit of research, you're going to find out that in Wakefield, where the headwaters of the Salmon Falls River is in trouble, in big trouble. We're number 2 or 3 on the national list of problem areas, folks. And all of you people in cable land out there that don't live on the water, because I do, are paying less taxes because those of us that own waterfront property pay more. Now, I'm not complaining, but the fact is, if that water goes, so does the tax value on that property. But more important than that, you've lost a resource. And water quality, as somebody else said, is important. It's just going to propagate life. Thank you.
It's hard to get the concept because this is downstream. This project's downstream from our industry, which is upstream, but you're exactly right. I think Salmon Falls is number 3 endangered for most developed in the United States.
It's still within the watershed, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to add,
we all live in the watershed.
That's a filter. That'll be a filter.
More questions? Comments? Jerry?
Well, I'll let Dave go first.
Dave is applying to be on the Conservation Commission, and Dave Tinkham and I went down today and put up some conservation signs on those designated youth camping areas. The words on the bottom of that little sign are the critical words. They're as big as the conservation words on the top of the sign. It says, "Public welcome." That's what you're getting.
Derek?
You would ask about people wanting to be involved and stuff, and I got a petition signed by 60 residents actually, based on RSA 4114A, Section 1, that if 50 residents present a petition to the Board of Selectmen, that requires you to create a warrant article and put it on the ballot for the March 2013 election.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Thank you. Any more comments? All right, we'll close the public hearing for tonight. Thank you for coming for that. And next we'll open the public hearing for the Conservation License Plate Grant. Monique, would you like to speak on that?
I would. I'm so excited. The license plate, the money comes from the license plates. Every moose plate that's sold in New Hampshire, $30 a year, goes into a fund. And this year, we were given the opportunity to apply for a grant and to preserve a couple of our historical books. So we filed for the grant, and we got awarded this grant in the amount of $8,500 plus dollars. I think it's $8,506. These books are downstairs at the safe. They're in pretty rough shape. And this grant will make it possible to preserve these books and have them digitized. And so we're very excited about this, and I'd like to see the book. I have them downstairs. I don't bring them out in public too often because they're very delicate. But I have pictures here if you want to see what they look like.
Ralph, you have a question for us?
I did, Monique, are they able to have vanity plates, or is it just numbers and letters?
The Moose plates can be vanity or regular. I sell regular plates in the office, or you could apply for the vanity plates as well.
Any more questions on the Moose Plate grant?
Are there federal strings attached?
State funding.
No.
Just a question.
No more questions, comments? All right, we'll close the public hearing on the Moose grant. This is for $8,506. Which this actually was in the budget 2 years ago, and we cut it out of the budget. And Monique didn't give up. She followed through, got some grant money to have it done, which doesn't affect the town tax rate anyways. Anybody get a motion?
Make a motion.
$8,506. I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. All right, moving on to the Maple Street Bridge, Mrs. White.
Hello.
How are you tonight? Good.
Yeah, I'm representing our community business on 19 Maple Street. And as you know, the bridge has been closed for over 2 years. And just wondering what the status is, what the plans are, because we haven't been able to rent it. Because the access, for business is very...
I find it odd that somebody won't drive 90 seconds out of their way and won't rent your building because they're so inconvenienced by 90 seconds.
But it's, typically it'd be, trucks that come in and out because there's a big warehouse there.
You're hoping trucks would be coming in and out.
Well, that's the kind of business we've had in the past.
Yeah, it's been light traffic, light industrial. It's not a huge...
It's light industrial, but it's still, for good-sized trucks
Yeah.
as we've had in the past.
Yeah.
And, I'm not being disrespectful, I'm just asking if we can get a status report.
Yeah. There are several other bridges in town that need to be repaired. We'd spent $135, I think, on the last one, and that's only halfway fixed. We have the Canal Road Bridge that's going to need several hundreds of thousands of dollars too. There's a second way out of there. It's a brand new bridge. It's a small inconvenience. The other bridges take 10 minutes to go around, and there are no other alternatives out of the other way. I wouldn't support spending money to repair that bridge at this time. I'd rather spend it on the roads and the infrastructure all over. I'm not even sure what it would cost for an estimate for it from an engineer, but we're probably talking $20,000 anyways, 20 to 30.
So in other words, it's not looking good for any time within the next...
Anytime soon? No, I wouldn't think so, in my opinion. But that doesn't stop you to get a warrant article to fix the bridge and get your signatures and put a warrant article to get together for it.
I believe there's someone else.
Yeah, she's waving. I'm waiting.
I actually have a petition here, signed from people from Bruce Road, Maple Street, and other places in Wakefield to take a look at, to open up and repair the bridge. I also contacted Ray Burden, who did notify the Department of New Hampshire Transportation Commissioners, and they're going to take a look at it, because I emailed him saying that the town didn't have enough budget to repair our bridge or other bridges that are high priority also in Wakefield. So they're going to take a look at it and see what they can do, maybe to help not just our Maple Street Bridge, but other bridges in town too.
Sure. The state does pay back, reimburse the town for bridge repair, but that takes over 10 years. And I wouldn't guarantee that the money would always come, all of it, all at once.
Didn't they run about $800,000 over the bid that we had to do the bridge up there for the same job?
For the last one, oh, the
Yeah,
state
it's like
estimates.
$900,000 is what they proposed. It would cost the state to do the bridge up in North Wakefield, and it's gonna end up costing us about $200,000 when we're done.
Well, some of the people.
Doing a private contractor.
Yeah, some people are questioning how much it would actually really cost, so that's what, one of the things we want to try to get is a more accurate, actual estimate how much it would cost, because we really want that bridge open, because when the flood happened and we got evacuated, yes, we used the new bridge, but it was also, the fire department had us get off of Maple Street and Brewster Road, because if the other dam, the upper dam by the hydroelectric one, they thought the one over Irving was going to come down, take out the other one, and then take out the other one, so they would not have anything, any way to get to us.
Well, it has been noted before as well that if you go to Harmony Drive,
Where's Harmony Drive?
over on Route 16 across the street,
Yeah, across the street.
you actually have an access that used to connect those. From what I understand, from what somebody had told us before, I think Mr. Blackwood has mentioned
It's
it.
where Bridge Street
On
comes in, you
multiple
go
connections,
straight
yeah,
right
it goes
through.
straight through,
That
and
was all trees and
Yeah, it is.
everything, so.
That was just
I
a
don't know if
future
anything.
cloverleaf for over Irving area.
yeah, but I'm just saying, that supposedly there's a right of way that we have to the highway out there, but
It'd probably be a lot cheaper than building a new bridge.
was the thought of the person who mentioned it, and I don't know, where it'll go from there, but that's a possibility as well. I've heard some people down in that neighborhood that really wouldn't like that to happen.
No, because, well, that would bring all the traffic from Route 16 right through Maple Street, and, it's bad enough there's speed demons down there already. We don't need more from
Welcome to the
state,
neighborhood, where it makes
Massachusetts and out of
trucking
state.
a lot easier.
But we won't give up.
Do you agree?
What's that?
Do you agree that it should be put on hold?
I agree that there are more important bridges in town at this point, that one up in North Wakefield, nobody can get access to their homes if that bridge isn't there. And the other one is the Canal Bridge, which I think is very significant as well for traffic. That would impact, like Ken said, 10 or 15-minute drive for people coming from Acton or going from Wakefield into Acton or to Sanford or wherever. So it's low on the priority list, I think.
Well, is there any chance we could get some kind of a projection of when it might be fixed?
We can see if we can do for estimates on it or something like that, or get an estimate on an
Appreciate it.
estimate and see what it costs. We can know, yeah, see what we can do with that. And otherwise, because without even an estimate, a warrant article, probably you just have to guess at the number and.
And I'm,
One more comment?
Yeah, I asked the town plow guy, Craig Plow, a long time ago, like, hey, when are they gonna fix our bridge? And he said, well, at least not for 3 or 4 years. At least for 3 or 4 years, so.
Ralph?
I have a question. Cynthia, is it straight truck traffic or is it tractor trailers? Because I would think a tractor trailer would have a hard time negotiating that corner off the new bridge.
well,
If you're going
when
down.
architectural fireplaces was there, it was tractor trailers and box trucks and, so there's concern for,
They used to go straight in off of Maple Street when they had architectural fireplaces, the big
And then
rigs.
there's the railroad track too,
Yeah.
which by the way has terrible sight line to the south.
Yeah. Do you have access to Route 16 from where the architectural fireplace used to be?
Where you have to get back on Main Street and then out.
Yeah, I just know the dirt road throughout the back that comes out on
No.
16.
No,
That's not your property.
it is, but the highway wouldn't, but that's not an accepted entrance. or
You don't have
exit.
an entrance there?
No.
It's not vehicle accessible, especially for winter.
Could be if you wanted to, if it was.
It might,
if you
well,
had-
I
the
think
town wants to
that's-
put a road through there.
I think that section of Route 16 is back, I think a lot of the corner up through here is state won't give you an access to it.
Right, but I didn't,
Limited
that's
access,
what I was asking if-
yeah.
I didn't know if she had access already for it.
Yeah.
All right, anyone here for the North Wakefield Bridge? All right, that one's easy then. Public comment number 1. I think Jerry beat you, Pam.
I'll let Pam go first.
All right.
Maybe I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, no, you don't. You don't want to hear what I have to say.
Okay. First of all, I'm speaking now as chairman of the Heritage Commission, and I'd like to thank the selectmen for the letter you sent prepared for our meeting with Ray Burton. And I'd like to tell you just briefly what came of that meeting and what I'd like you to comment on. We did have a meeting with Ray Burton and also Chris Gamache, who is the chief of the Bureau of Trails. They met an hour and 15 minutes with us that Friday following your last meeting. And we presented our case for leaving the rails along from Turntable Park to 16. I've received emails since that, and the upshot of that whole meeting was they'd like to see, they're not going to do anything immediately, at least a year. They'd like to see our plan for the use of that area. And since then, because usually Chris Gamache said they always take up the rails. That's their position today. It is not to leave the rails for any reason. But after our meeting, I received an email from him saying he thought we presented an excellent case for leaving them, and he's looking forward to the proposal of what we're planning to do with that piece of property, working on that piece of property, and they have no plans at the present time to remove the rails because of that. So what we have to present this proposal to not just he, but also to Ray Burton and also to another councilman, Herlihy, whom I do not know, who's also a member of the Governor's Council, for them to look at. What I want to know is I would like the selectmen's approval in concept that we do what we want, that we submit the plan, the proposal that we'd like to see, long range. And I'm working with Wayne, with Parks and Rec, so that it would be a joint proposal. What we want to see is the rails to stay. There's significant early rails there. We want to be able to do interpretive signage. We want to be able to have the motorized cars use it, and other activities of that nature, that historical, maybe even pump cars if we can, we don't have one, but we know of people who might do that. Expand the lease, or at least renew the lease to that area, which is now up to Chris Gamache. He's now considered the landlord because the state turned that over to him. So all of this we would only be working directly with him. But to present a plan, at least in concept, I'd like to know that the selectmen, this board, would support the concept, because that's what they're looking for. I need to have the selectmen, I believe, and the Heritage Commission agree to the concept we're presenting, because it makes no sense to spend the time and do this and then find out that no support.
I think we've given you support a couple of times on this issue. I'm okay with you guys going forward with the plan, Peter. You all set? Charlie? For it. Sounds good.
Okay.
Jerry?
One other comment before you go to Jerry. I just want to comment that our open house is this Sunday, at the railroad station is this Sunday from 3:30 to 5:30. It was, the information was given out at the last meeting incorrectly.
Thank you.
At the Freight House will be open and the station. Thank you.
Gary?
I was going to ask about the North Wakefield Bridge up there because I saw that on the agenda, but I don't know if anybody has looked at that, but that approach and the wing wall on, I guess it would be like the northwest corner there, that's got a big hole right there by the guardrail, and that wall is beginning to blow out. It looks like if something isn't done to protect that, if the ice and snow gets down in there and builds up, it freezes. I mean, that I was looking, I took some pictures, and it looks like that granite wing wall there is bulged out, you know, several feet, and if the frost gets in and the water gets in there and you put heavy loads on that, that could you know, cause serious problems. But the other side that you did looks good, but of course that's the side
We're
you're
gonna finish
finishing
that
now.
now. And that'll come up when we're working on our warrant articles. Wednesday. Any more public comment? All right, we'll move on to unfinished business, work fair program.
I have a little bit of an update. We had contacted the local government center on the workers' comp, and it states that as if we have, and I haven't checked with Arlene, so I need to do this also, but if we have established a local work fair program under the RSA 165.31 and made provisions in that to have work fair, then they would be covered underneath our workers' comp automatically. We believe automatically. Did we get a response back? We didn't get a response back. So it makes it sound like in the first comment that we get back from LGC that we would be covered. But we asked them to, we asked them to just kind of state that they would definitely say we didn't have to pay for additional people, that they would automatically be covered. We sent that email on yesterday, and we didn't get a response. So I'll keep you updated, but
keep it on the agenda.
Yeah, keep it on the agenda for next time.
That work fair. If these people sign a form, a volunteer form, what is the difference between somebody who coaches a baseball team and that? How are all these volunteers, not even coaching, how are all these volunteers?
I think it's because we've given them money to help them, and
We
now
give others money as well.
they're paying back a service.
We give others money as well.
No, I don't know that answer. I'm just saying we're giving.
Well, that's what was asked to me this week, and I agreed. Arlene and I were talking about this, and she said, you know, she talked to another community, and they had said, what's the difference? That's how we view it. You know, they're volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And if they sign a form saying that we're volunteering our time.
But they're not.
They're not volunteers.
Yeah,
The
they don't
LGC has
have to
already
do it.
said they're
They
not
don't
volunteers.
have to do it.
LGC
So it's
has already-
volunteering our time.
But they've already said that they do not meet the definition of volunteers under the town's liability policy.
I understand because they are the insurers, what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because they're going to try
Right.
to charge you for everything they can charge you for.
So under the liability policy,
I'm asking
they're
for
not
clarification
volunteers.
as to how they can say that when we have all kinds of volunteers in town, and we do get money for certain things.
Well, none of them
But
would
those
be
are
covered.
employees.
Huh?
Those are
Even
employees.
volunteers.
Well, all
We
of
had
those,
gas money, we probably refunded gas money or stuff.
well, all of the volunteers that we
That's all I'm
have,
saying.
Selectmen, assessors are all compensated for their time. I think a lot of it you're gonna fringe on is labor laws.
Conservation Commission members are compensated for their time.
No, but you volunteers.
Huh? That's right.
Volunteers.
And if they get money to go to classes,
The
classes
classes
are bought
pay
for
for
them,
it.
you know.
they're
Yeah.
appointed as members of a commission or a board.
But
I'm with you.
They're different,
We're with you, Pat.
I know you're with me on this,
Yeah.
I'm just simply saying, I just don't understand.
We'll keep
So
looking at it, it'll stay
it
on the
looks more,
agenda.
so the main thing is, it
When
looks
it's
more
back open.
positive that they would be covered under our workers' comp
Good.
because we have it in our work fair program under RSA 135.61.
Okay.
165.31, sorry. But we're just gonna get more clarification, and I'll bring it up at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
No new business, capital reserve expenditure for the landfill. $531.41.
You did?
And then when we find it,
Motion to approve it. Has that been?
Any more discussion?
That's, I don't know.
Can we check on that?
so Peter moved it, I didn't hear a second.
Charlie
Charlie,
seconded
thank
it.
you, sorry.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Correspondence. We've, I don't think I got the letter from Mrs. Chen.
Well, I couldn't, where do you see it? I couldn't really scan it. I was like,
Oh.
can't really scan it.
Dear Stuart, thank you for the kind words. I enjoy helping others, and I know I will be repeatedly by others helping me now. But anyways, you made me feel very good and made the day special. Thank you so much, Vivian Chet. Awesome.
That's what that's supposed to be.
That's what it is, yeah. Public comment number 2. Right.
I had a chance to watch the MRI presentation to the select board.
You didn't come to it?
I missed it.
It's sold out.
I know, it was hard to find a seat. It seemed like Mr. Sutton, John, was a little puzzled how we are able to keep our tax base low, and be, pretty efficient and effective. And he also was a little puzzled why we had some elected positions, and maybe even positions that could have been combined or reduced and stuff like that. But I think the fact that we have elected boards and elected officials doing numerous jobs in the town hall lends to the unique character of this town and enables us. A lot of people in town, I believe, have trust in their elected officials and faith that they're always going to do the right thing. And when they're asked to when it comes time for elections, warrant articles and stuff like that, when things are recommended by the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee, these folks have faith in the idea that they put those folks through the election process in the position they're at. And if they're recommending one way or another, there's good reason, and they usually follow those recommendations. Wakefield works because of our elected officials, is what I believe. And an effort in the past, numerous efforts in the past have been made to remove some elected officials or combine different positions, and I think that would be detrimental to the character of this town and would probably result in our town becoming more like Rochester, Manchester, Farmington, or any other place less desirable to live in Wakefield. So that's my take on the MRI presentation.
As you know from being on the Budget Committee, there's not more cutting and slashing in the budget. It's down to its lowest rate, and there's as you know, as being an assessor, the property values with all the waterfront, the property values are all high, so the two equal out very good for everyone that doesn't live on the lake.
Well, when you look at the tax rate today, and you look at the tax rate from 1989, I think we're at the same rate for 1,000. So, I mean, it's fluctuated way up.
Yeah.
It's come down, but it's never been really much lower than it is today.
Depending on the rate of assessment.
It's been somewhere around 891, down as low as 875.
But whenever you see in the paper another town setting their tax rate, you always look at it like, oh my God, how can they afford the taxes? They're $20, $25, $30 a thousand. So we're
And they
just
don't have
extremely
luxury
fortunate.
like lakes, so.
Right. That's our industry. Any more comments?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And I don't know if I can ask a question, but I mean, is there any movement happening with the Time Warner contract, or is that like, you have like a target date of?
Do you have that on your administrator's update?
Oh,
I don't, but I can give it a little. I emailed Kate 2 weeks ago, and we ended up both at the LGC conference, and I talked to her a little bit there. And actually, I need to get in touch with Jerry because I need to build out maps again, because she needs little information there. And she sent me an email this week on something else, and she said, let's talk this week. So her and I are going to talk this week. So she has sent everything back to Time Warner from the discussion that we had. But there was one thing, if I could pull up my email, that she was still waiting on, and it had to do with the build-out maps. I think it was still trying to decide how much area She's had several conversations with them and to resolve a few issues. Check to see if the original Exhibit A to the 97 amendment. Can you check to see if I have the original Exhibit A to the 97 amendment to the franchise that show the map of the mandatory service areas in yellow highlighted? And I don't know if
It's no longer yellow. I think that's the problem. I don't think we have the original in the file.
we have that.
I don't think
We
we
don't
have
have
the
the
original
original.
because it's not yellow. That's not showing that.
Okay.
We'll
It's
check.
easy, just use, put yellow all the way
Yeah.
around. Thanks.
She says she has copies of the map, but it's all black and white and have no yellow highlights showing up.
The ones we had, the build-out maps had some
Had some,
marks on them.
didn't it have some?
I thought
Then maybe you
some
guys have
of them-
I thought there was something, so if you could check that for me, Jerry, sometime this week.
Yep, you bet.
And then I'll get back in touch with her and then she'll get back to.
Okay, because on that last page of the contract, of the proposed contract, about the $10,000 of startup costs, I'm not really clear on whether they struck that all out, Time Warner I'm talking about, or what, but I did have a conversation with a man named Mike Leonard from Time Warner, and it's my understanding that they may be more receptive to a request for actual equipment instead of dollars.
That's what he had said when he was
Yeah.
here, I think.
Yeah, and so we're in the process of trying to get a wish list together, and I don't know how soon this is gonna come together, but, you know, we'll be diligent about getting a list of requested, a wish list of, to improve the quality of the programming, because, I mean, we need everything, so it shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah. When do you think Clearview will be coming to the selectmen and go on the agenda?
Well, I actually expected to hear from you regarding the memorandum of agreement that I emailed.
Sent out?
I emailed you all the memorandum of agreement on Monday, and I figured you probably want to look at that and talk to council or whatever you decide to do, and we can, I mean, we can meet any time.
My question is going to be, Jim, I read it, not the question I had for you was, at first you were asking us to move along warily.
Right.
And not be in a hurry.
Right.
And I understand it, you've got things where you need to have them. The last meeting when we had the cable contract discussion, were you somewhat happy, were you guys somewhat happy with what you were hearing? So that we should proceed along?
Well, it wasn't clear to me. There were some things that I wasn't clear on. For example, the last page of our contract that said it was $10,000. I mean, I didn't see a strike through on that, but it was highlighted in red, the copy I had. And so it wasn't clear to me. It's like, okay, does red mean it's out as far as Time Warner's concerned, or?
I just want to make sure we're all on the same, we're on the same page, because as I said, it was.
We could meet any time at this, or, I mean.
Well, I think we may only have one meeting next month.
Yeah.
26 is always.
It's the day after.
So 12/12/12 is the only meeting in December, I think.
You
I'm sure they will
have a
remember
short
that.
one on the 19th.
I think the Mayans canceled that date out, didn't they?
No, they're a week later.
Oh, good.
Well, I'm not
Good
clear.
night.
A week and 2 days.
The discussion
Oh.
of the contract is a public item
Oh.
or non-public. I don't know. I mean, I leave that up to you.
Yeah.
If-
We've had it public before. I don't think we've done anything non-public with the
Right.
cable contract.
And it doesn't matter to us, I mean, but I'm sure you want to digest that, and I still want you to use due diligence on this, but,
But I know you're in a time crunch too, because you've got the funding and everything
well,
else coming up.
we're coming to the end of the road of the things we can do without any funds.
Yeah.
But we'll continue to
Okay.
move ahead. We're visiting some other sites to see how they do it, Farmington, and Wolfboro, because they're kind of ahead of us on the
Well, you've got a steam going, and I certainly don't want to see this board do anything that would impede that.
Exactly. That's
No,
what
I-
I was thinking to.
No, I don't think there's, you gotta hold this up. I didn't realize, at least the information I had was that our contract is up. So it seems like the sooner they can be worked out with whatever terms that you decide,
Yeah.
the better off for everyone.
No, that was my biggest concern. I just, like I said, I didn't want to slow down the steam engine as it's moving.
I don't think, no, I think there's a lot of enthusiasm. We're going to start advertising a video club to see if we can get some more townspeople interested. With the idea after the first of the year, we'll start doing some training, maybe some parents and young folks can get involved. We'll teach them how to run the cameras and that type of thing. That's already, those are things we can do without funding. And so we're proceeding with those things. Okay.
All right.
I think you're doing a good job.
Well, thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
We're going to do our best.
Like Peter said, you've got the energy and the enthusiasm, so we don't want to slow it down.
No.
That's right.
Any more public comments?
What happened?
Dave?
On cable, the meeting I attended, it really seemed like the cable company, cable provider was giving you the franchise fee and then taking it back. And the certain things, I thought the most important key element was a certain build out every year without meeting that 15 homes per mile. Because there are streets that maybe have 10 per mile. They will never get built out until, cable will be obsolete someday. They'll be taking it down and those homes will never get it. The idea that it wouldn't cost that much if they just picked 1 or 2 miles each year and built it out regardless if it was 1 or 2. And I don't know if that's in there, but I found that as key. And a lot of these things that we talked about at that meeting, the reaction of the cable provider was, oh, sure, we'll do that. We'll just take it out of your franchise fee. And I thought that, that's kind of ridiculous. The franchise fee is for one thing, and then when you ask for the build out, oh, great, we'll just take $20,000 out of the franchise fee. They're two different things. So I don't know the details of how this is working out, but I will be hugely disappointed if there isn't something about every year doing a little bit of build out until the town is 100%. We talked that it might be 5 miles, and then that would be it. You never have to do anything again. If you just took 1 mile a year and did it, I think they can afford it. We're talking millions of dollars of fees. If that isn't in there with the contract signed, I'm going to be hugely disappointed.
But like you're saying, the cable's going to be obsolete probably sooner rather than later. So you know why they don't want to build it out. The same reason Fairpoint won't fix any of the wires or the poles or anything like that. Band-aiding it all together and hoping they can
Well, I'll
find it
agree
as
with
long
it.
as they can.
I'll agree with it, because I'm one to be one of those people that's never ever going to see it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, there you go. We're never going to see it.
So we use other sources. We spend our dollars other ways. We don't give it to Time Warner. Somebody else gets it, which is their loss. So, which one of you two was first?
I was.
You gonna let Ralph go?
Oh, that's all right. You go ahead. That's all right. Go ahead, Ralph. I'll let you.
Unless there's towns out there that, roads that I'm not really aware of, like the one up by John's house there, the little lane. I put an odometer to the posts and stuff, and we're talking about 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles of build-up that hasn't been done. And I was going through some town reports from 94, 96, where the things that the Cable Advisory Board was harping on was trying to hold the cable company to their commitment to do 100% build-out, and it had been, at that time, 6-7 years, and it still hadn't been accomplished.
Was that grassroots back then?
Frontier Commission was talking about that.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that maybe before you sign that franchise agreement, that maybe they should just go and build out the rest of the town first before we get into the business. But, that's my pet peeve. Jerry's out.
Ralph's the chairman now, so.
Yep.
Sorry.
I was hoping to get
Oh, no, we were talking about, I thought he said wait, so, we were talking about the build out, and that seems to come up a lot. And we did look at the map and see where it was, the build out was pretty extensive throughout the town, but, I'm not quite sure how you get 100% build out when, the town is constantly growing. So, I mean, that's kind of, it keeps changing, if it was, 100% for what the amount of houses were in the year 2000, you may have done that, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. But I think the other point with the build-out is even public service, if you're a certain distance away from the main roads and stuff, and you live back 600, 700 or 2,000 feet from the road, of course you have to pay for the poles and the wire, and then you have to pay for the phone company and all that. So, I mean, even with public service having been here for as many years as it's been here, there's still, there's still that extra charge if you happen to build someplace that's way off of the beaten path. But, I mean, I guess build-out would be just on the main roads, to have it accessible, and if somebody lived back from there. But like I say, I know we looked at the build-out maps at the cable board, and we were really pretty surprised to see how extensive the system actually was. There was only, the most notable spot was right up by Charlie's house. I think it goes west from 153 and stops, and it comes east from Route 16 and right around where Charlie lives, it stops. So.
Was there a note on those maps that says "Do not provide service"?
I don't. That was that.
Never provide service.
That was that. In perpetuity came in. But that was the yellow part on the map. So anyway,
probably wouldn't fly. I was always hopeful that you could negotiate something with it with like a percentage. It seems to be all or nothing.
I tried to negotiate with them, and they said the only negotiation they would do is if I come up with 7,000.
They wanted 5 for me.
I didn't think that was much negotiation.
If they'll pay all the cost, if there's 15 houses, if there's 10 houses, how about we pay a third and they pay 2/3? But maybe that's just too much common sense.
What incentive do they have to negotiate? They're the only game in town.
Right.
That's the problem.
True.
That's the only game in town, so they have no incentive to negotiate.
Yeah.
And that's called monopoly in a lot of places, and it's unfortunate.
Any more public comments? All right, we'll go on to liaison reports.
The road crew was finished up on Brackett Road as of the day before yesterday. They were going to start putting the wings on the trucks, getting ready for the snow. They had a little bit of shoulder work to do on a couple of roads. And they've been working, or at least Fred's been, working with the water department as they repair some of the water lines going up Witch-Trot Road. They're repairing that whole section up through there. So Fred, I've seen Fred up there a few times with them. And my conservation report you heard earlier, and also the heritage report, you also heard that. So I'll swear on all mine, except for police and fire.
At the planning board, we negotiated, we saw 4 proposals on the National Resource Inventory request that Dave Mangus is bringing forth to us on the master plan thing. There was 4 total bids, and they all exceeded what most of the board would want to give. So the board come up with a figure of $8,500. The high bid was 13. The low bid was $96.40. And the board came up with a different number for them, and we gave them $8,500 to go back to their drawing board and see what they can do for that. But we had said that basically it's all or nothing for $8,500. We did get something back from them, if I recall, David, and and not reading it myself, but it's been brought to my attention, there was one thing that wasn't on there that was on the original bid, so we still got to look at that to say, because the board was unanimously, it's all or nothing. So we'll wait and see what that says on there. The other thing is we got a proposed amendment on the Route 16 corridor, is to amend the official zoning map by extending the business commercial district along the Route 16 corridor as follows, generally extending 1,000 feet on both sides of Route 16 to the edge of the right-of-way. In some areas, the Brookfield town line, whichever is closer. The newly zoned area would begin at the southerly side of Wilson Road and run south of Route 109 at the point where the Branch River crosses Route 16. The southeasterly district line shall follow the northerly edge of the river until it crosses Route 109. So the actual zoning boundaries are shown on the attached map and shall be incorporated into the official name. So basically, there's they're all, they're unanimous on where these things are going. They didn't want to try to ask for too much at one time, so they're kind of dividing it up into another. I would like to see it go a little further north for other people's sakes, as well as anybody, the town's sake, but I'm only one on the board. Let's see, what was the other thing? We're reading the ZBA. I guess there's a meeting this month we're waiting for a variance meeting on the Dave Silcox's.
It's a rehearing?
Yeah, it's a rehearing. So that's been held up until the variance board decides on what they want to do there. But the neighbor has got quite an extensive list of reasons why she doesn't think that it's needed in that area. And I have not been to these meetings, so I'm just reading about it. So if anybody's interested, I do believe it's the 28th of this month, maybe? No, it's today.
They had a meeting on Monday.
They had the meeting Monday.
We had the ZBA and her appeal was turned down by the ZBA.
So is it being accepted?
No. Well, it was turned down. The board didn't accept her appeal.
So the original was granted and that stays?
And that stands, and now she's done with as far as the ZBA and the town goes. Yep. She could appeal the denial to court if she wanted to, and she has like 30 days, but yep. That's the end of it. The ZBA did turn down her appeal on the variance.
Thank you, Steve. But other than that, I did not have a Parks and Rec this month. It was canceled.
They're all parked over there.
What's that?
They're all parked over there in a minute.
Okay, so they may have it tonight, and I wasn't able to make it.
WPI is putting their package together again, the bid package for the renovations upstairs. We were hoping to have it out by now. Is it out? Fully out? Not that though, right? It's advertised. Just what's the date on that?
It's due
It's
back.
not due back yet.
December, I don't remember.
December 19th. That's why we're having a meeting. It's on the website.
Yeah, yeah. With the hopes of having it done for deliberative session. I think it's really getting close for it. So, budget, we'll get back in that swing next week.
Is that when we go back into ourselves?
What's that?
Is that when we start talking about the budget ourselves as a selectman next week?
Next Wednesday at 3:30.
Next Wednesday.
That's your last meeting about the budget, and then the town budget meeting meets again.
WPI. And I'm just wondering, the money's already been voted on, or this supposed to be some money for the sprinkler systems on this level?
And
Is
this
that all?
level. Yeah, this level.
No, I'm saying on this level, we've already got the money for that. And you guys are now looking to hopefully get it upstairs as well, right? Does that money cover both the upstairs and downstairs?
I don't know if it's gonna cut, they know how much money we have, and that's gonna help
They'll
do the whole
supplement
project.
it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So are we
and it's
gonna
with
wait for the
sprinkler
sprinkler systems
systems
down here until they get a plan up there?
No.
No,
Okay,
we're
so
hoping to have it
it's
all
the
done by
whole-
February.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's part of the whole project, which is at some point, you guys will have to talk about when we find out how much work needs to be done down here as far as displacing us or working on weekend with the people are gonna be
nights and
doing
weekends.
nights and weekends, or.
So it'll really leave this floor, will be the last floor left.
Yeah.
The most expensive one anyways.
Thank you.
Budget, and I did go by the food pantry going, and it's looking pretty sharp.
Yeah, I think
It's a good spot for it.
First part of January now.
Open house?
Is the moving time.
I think it's great down there. I think it's gonna do just fine.
It's better than the dump, the transfer station where they wanted to go. Selectmen's letter of appreciation.
Ken and I talked earlier,
Me and Charlie talked to.
Okay?
I just, before you make the decision, I had a different approach with it tonight. Because it just, you know, like I stated it in one of my very first meetings as a selectman, that I wasn't really happy at just choosing people randomly.
Well, it's some thought, it's not
Yes.
random, we're not
Well,
pulling a name out.
I understand that, but I mean,
There's a
it
reason.
just seems like we're trying to
We got trouble
rush
with
it.
that, too.
And what I would like to propose is that there's a lot of new businesses in town that have opened up recently. There's 3 in East Wakefield that are about to open, and 1 just opened, and there's 1 across the street, and I thought maybe this time we could maybe send these people a appreciation letter for moving into our community, and wish them luck.
Well, my suggestion was going to be, as I talked to Ken earlier, is on the heels of the MRI report, I think every committee, every board, every department within the town deserves a letter of appreciation for their outstanding work and helping the official, the MRI report move along.
Yeah.
So I don't, it doesn't matter to
That's
me where it
fine.
goes on this. I mean, I like your idea as well,
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
I wouldn't have a problem as a policy when a new business comes to town.
That me
We
neither,
send
that's
them
what
a
I was
letter.
kind of probably trying to
Yeah.
maybe try to establish, and if
Yeah.
that's okay to do both, I think Peter's idea is fantastic as always with that. I mean, any of these letters are fine, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't say that there's not a million people in this town that don't deserve it, it's just,
Sometimes it's the same 30 to 100 or 200.
exactly. And all I'm saying is that we do have, it just seems like this last couple of months, it seems like we're turning, a few nice businesses are starting to pop up. There's 2 restaurants just popping up in East Wakefield, and then there's this little place across the street. Maybe just a letter from us to everyone, every time there is a new one, just to wishing them luck and that kind of thing.
Well, I personally think if you're not being hauled off by the cops of the county jail, you all deserve a letter of appreciation for making this town work.
So, I mean, if you want to send everybody
The letter for the departments, committees, employees.
Yep, it's a great idea.
We did the employees in 2010, fire department. But yeah, we send it there. And
Committees, because let's face it, everybody, the committees, if it weren't for the committees saving the money and the volunteers doing their work, it all wouldn't happen. It's like the audit.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
we'll work on a policy to
Yeah,
send them out to all
that's
the
not- yeah,
businesses.
that
Yeah,
sounds
when
like
you
a
guys
good thing.
hear of new businesses or somebody
Yeah.
else, just let us know, because,
I don't know if
I
it's
think
I
that's
don't
a
ever
great
know.
idea.
similar to the chamber, send them a
yeah.
Yeah.
dump sticker
I don't,
and
yeah,
just a menu of when the town hall's open and stuff like that.
Little monkey business.
indicate, maybe there's a package thing that we can send all new businesses.
Similar to the
Have
chamber.
a,
Yeah.
a little
Even if
package
it was
thing.
like what businesses supports the local youth leagues and stuff, or businesses that support them, you could muster something, but, let's get way.
Maybe we could just
Yeah.
say, if you need
Yeah.
anything, contact the town hall at 522.
Contact Peter at,
Here are the selectmen's home numbers.
yep. Town administrator update.
I'll answer that one.
All right, you have an open road permit that, for the Witch Trot Road project that's been going on. They filled out the permit before they started the work, they got most of their stuff, Fred signed it, they got their, information, we just didn't get it to you before they started
Yeah.
the work, but it does require your signature, so I just wanted to, and it only has one
I
spot.
want to make sure that they repave the areas properly, because I know I'm on a state road, but I've got a hole right now from a water line break about 5 weeks ago that my cars are ready to sink down into.
I saw that by your mailbox?
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
I hope that they repair the roads.
The,
Well, if they can't repair it because of cold or whatever, like happened on Forest Street last year, they did come back when it got nicer out and they did repair it.
I don't want to come back 2 years from now, I'd like
No,
to
no, I
see-
mean, they did that. I mean, I'm saying they came back right away and they did that, it just depends on
I know they
if they
wait
can
until
still
they
get
have enough-
asphalt.
Right,
I don't know if they're still producing asphalt right now.
they were down
The
in
weather.
Rochester today.
I don't know. So Fred will be on that. He's very good about
I know.
making sure the water department gets gets that stuff done.
You guys all set?
Sign that.
You good?
Yep.
I have another ambulance request of waiver. Todd actually brought this one to me because somebody sent it to him. The person that has the bill, they're submitting that they have a hardship and cannot pay the bill. And he left me a note stating that he's okay to waive all these same issues as before with other people.
Mhm.
And if we had any questions.
This is all the same person, right?
This is all the same person. Yeah.
They're just stating they have, at the end, $65 left out of his Social Security a month. I'll make a motion to waive it.
You can second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And then one other thing that I forgot to mention at the last meeting is when we had our 2 new employees start at the highway garage, the very first week we had a little snowstorm. And one of our previous employees got up at 3:30 in the morning and rode with one of our new guys. And that employee has also came in and helped us with the interview process and has helped us with various things in town. And Peter has mentioned this before to me, and I think it's a pretty good idea that maybe we do something. This is Rusty, and I think that maybe we should give him a gift card or something to that for helping us out with some of these things. I mean,
Give him a big attaboy.
I'd like to suggest a $50 gift card at least.
you know, to Napa or something in town. That,
This is right up your work fare, the same thing, we're paying the volunteer money for it, and the camera's running. Yeah, look into it, I don't care, he is well worth it, deserves it, sure.
He already went on the ride, there was no incident, they don't have to worry about the working on his car.
Well, it always comes back when you're audited, if it looks like an employee, it's an employee.
Right.
They should have been compensated, and the penalties, and the FICA, and the retirement, it just sucks that you can't volunteer to do anything now.
No.
But
Well, and I think, Rusty, you probably would decline that as for just an attaboy and thank you. Or a good letter of appreciation. There's another letter.
We've done that before.
You know, which we have.
Yeah.
I think he did that because he's very concerned on that, and I
and he was
don't.
helping out.
And I believe that everybody deserves a thank you, but do I think everybody deserves gift certificates? No, because I think he did that out of, because he wanted
Exactly.
to.
Right.
Yep.
But it's a great thought, I
Right.
really believe
Yep.
that. I mean, I'd give him 50 of them if I could, you
Right.
know? But
Right.
I think he did that because he was graciously involved and wanted to make sure that our new employee succeeded.
Right.
So,
So it's up to you.
There was a motion out there
What was the motion?
to get a $50 gift
$50
card.
gift card. Is there a second? Dies for lack of a second. Thank you, Peter.
thank you, Peter.
Okay. And that's all I had.
Keep working on the cameras off, though. Building permit releases.
I don't have any of those, but I've got some other things if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, while we're on building permit releases, did anybody read the Town and Country? It had several pages
The
on
water.
building permit
Oh.
releases.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so take a look at the magazine. A lot of towns were denying different one and requiring sprinkler systems because they were non-accessible. So just reread that a little bit.
What magazine is
Did you
it?
get that?
Do you get
Town
that?
and City?
I don't think you do.
You don't get it?
You can get it
You
right
get that?
online.
Why isn't he
You
getting
can get it online.
I can
get
get
this.
Go to the
You should be getting it though.
Go to the LGC website, it's right online.
Do you get yours, Peter?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think mine came within
Oh,
a
at
month
home.
or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine comes to home too.
Mark's probably still getting
Never
it.
heard
Oh,
of
we
it.
should see if Mark's still getting it. And he likes it, so he wouldn't.
Tony, you were saying?
Well, you agreed recently to, deed back a tax acquired property. They have, that has been redeemed, the money's in the bank, and we have a deed here for you to sign if you'd like to do that.
Awesome. We need to think probably in the spring for selling off a lot of the tax
Yes, we
acquired
do,
stuff.
we've got a folder going for you.
Yep, we've got a list.
This was the one on
There.
Bella, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes.
581 Bella. I'll make the motion. Sorry.
Second.
Any more discussion?
What about that for tax dockets?
Yeah?
Isn't that mine?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
One, two.
I have two there.
Another one. One, two. Hold on.
Maybe it's not in
I
your
should
motion.
make another motion for $50 and get another property in the tax roll.
Make it for 100, maybe it'll pass this time.
Also, one more thing if you'd like, the Conservation Commission has recommended the appointment of Dave Tinkham as a alternate member.
Make that motion.
I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Sorry.
Mark is gone.
Okay, excellent.
What was
Is
the
it-
term? Is it a 3-year term? Well, it was a 3-year term.
I think it's 3. Is it 3 years?
Through 2015.
Yeah.
Through March of 2000. So, I mean, if we had done it in March, it would have been a 3-year term. Now it's a 2 and a something. So, but I don't usually put the number in it that way. I put the expiration date because we do it throughout the year. Is that okay?
Thank you very much.
Did you want me to mention that? That's the town report bids.
Oh, did you already put it out?
Yeah, and I've
You
already
already
got
got
the
it
3 back, so, would you like to know about town report bids? I'm sorry, I just organized it this afternoon. But we have 3. The top one is the person we've been dealing with for a number of years. The second one is the person we dealt with before that. And look at that third one.
C&K Printers out of
Town report
Rochester.
printing.
Really?
Town and Country was 2,059. Wharfs Industries was 2,340, and C&K out of Rochester 1,695.
C&K does the nursery school phone books.
Yeah. I'll make the motion for C&K, which is almost 500 less than the next bidder.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Here.
Thank you. Other than this, let's see, what's the name?
Payment manifest? Give it. Number 36 for the year, $361,625.36.
Most of that's to the school for the second half. of
Yeah,
the
333 on the door.
Yeah.
Was that a motion?
Sure.
Okay. I'll second it. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The minutes from November 14th.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kenny, can you go back to your warrants?
Yep.
Sorry, we haven't received all of our payroll information through the mail yet, so
Yep.
that doesn't look real great, but I promise you
This
it's
is the
right.
total number
Yeah,
of
yeah.
right now.
Yeah,
So the
I
payroll
did.
warrant, 26, $65,056.12. Make the motion.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Minutes from November 14th.
I've made a few corrections on those. I've given to Tony, questions that I have.
Do you want to hold off, or are you all set with?
I'm all set. It just, I'll approve it as,
You guys might want to see it, so you see what I changed.
Yeah, no, we'll just do it the next meeting.
Yeah.
All right, that, we have a reason for non-public?
Yep.
Under 91A, 3, 2? A.
Which is?
Dismiss it.
Just find a little chart to tell them
What's it about? Let me know.
I'll know when I get there, I haven't seen anything yet.
Dismissal, promotion, or setting compensation.
For public
Can't
employees.
tell you the wrong person now.
Personnel.
But it's not
Personnel.
just person, yeah.
All right, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having us.